Well, egg is expensive, whichever way you look at it, whether it's the table egg that you consume or the egg that eventually becomes a child. And there have been lots of negative narrative around that one in recent times. Well, it's been on for a while, really. So today we want to dig deeper into this issue of egg donation and some of the sharp practices that have been identified. What do you need to know about this? What is the right way to go about this? What is the wrong way to go about this? And we have joining us, as you can see, Dr. Joel Akonde, who's an embryologist, a gynecologist, fertility specialist, medical legal consultant, and founder CEO of Fertility and Gynecology Center. Good morning, Dr. Akonde. It's good to have you on the program again.
Good morning, and thank you for having me.
We've heard all sorts, let me just say. People selling their eggs for as low as 50,000 naira. I've even heard 20,000 naira in some cases. And I remember that recently, or not too long ago, the House of Representatives mandated one of its committees to investigate fertility clinics and some of these practices. I know there's been some back and forth. The clinics say, well, this is a method that is good to save other people who need help, but still we see and hear some very, very sad tales, particularly young girls, university students who are sort of coerced into egg donation. So maybe speak to us from the side of a fertility clinic. Is this something you've seen? Is this something you're worried about? And what is the right way to go about it?
Well, the worrying part of the whole event is by unscrupulous, unregistered, or dark practices by individuals and groups of people. Generally speaking, egg donation has helped millions of people worldwide, including Nigeria, women and men, to have children, couples to have their own children who would otherwise have been impossible to have a family of their own. So the Medical and Dental Council of Nigeria clearly stated in Section 23 that it is a sound practice, egg donation. Therefore, under the law, it is a sound practice. But when you have situations where it is not properly regulated, like any sections of the humanity, or in particular in Nigeria, you have abuses and situations that we have at hand. It's not, it will not be far-fetched to be seen.
Right. So first, should you be paid for egg donation?
Well, again, deferring to our regulators, the Medical and Dental Council of Nigeria, the word donation means it should be a voluntary practice. Donation means you are giving it willingly and voluntarily. You are not under compulsion. Should it be paid for? Well, that is something that you and I can look at it from a practical point of view. These individuals will incur transport, will incur time losses, will incur pain, will incur a little bit of suffering. There is no way anyone can pay for the egg itself. But all these ancillary, beside costs, should be remunerated, should be compensated, and therefore the thing is compensation. It cannot be paid for. The hair that you and I are carrying, the hair on our heads and our body, nobody in the world has been able to make one cell of it. So now the most important part of the humanity, or any organ for that matter, cannot be paid for. Now, having said that, compensation on one part. I've had clients or potential clients who, on a funny part, will say, well, how much are you going to pay? Some will even say, in response, I say, how much do you want? He said, I will pay per one egg, I'll take 2 million naira. In fact, of recent, I said, harvest the egg, carry them in a plate and bring them and let's see what. That's on the funny side. But really, and frankly, egg cannot be paid for. Nobody can pay for human organs. Nobody has been able to grow one, and it's a compensation.
So let's look at the reason why this came to the fore. And that's internal memo, I think, from University of Ibadan, your university. The University of Ibadan,
right.
Raising that concern over girls now looking at it as a side hustle. And they are dissuading them that, look, as much as this is a great thing to do, that you're giving hope to families who may not have been able to have hope through through IVF. You're making that dream come true.
That's true.
But you must be cautious. So I want you to speak to the danger of making this a hustle, which is the bone here, which is the main conversation.
The fundamental issue here is the fact that, yes, you can. There are generous people out there. There are altruistic individuals in our community who really wants to add values to their fellow human beings. But really, it should not, again, deferring to regulations, it should not be commercialized. There are sisters who want to pay for their siblings or their family members because of their victims' inability to bear children. On that matter, it is not a commercialized thing. But if you do it regularly on the basis to raise funds for your own socio-economic well-being, you have commercialized it, and that is what we've thrown out. And that is what is the concern of the University of Ibadan by raising that memo, which I have read myself. If you do it on a regular basis, it is not allowed. You are damaging more of your body. There are serious consequences that you will need to consider.
What is regular basis? What's the limit, say, and is there an age bracket in this sense? How many times can a girl donate? When is it excessive? They even listed in part of that memo that there is even the long-term effect of loss of fertility in itself. I want you to dwell on that for a moment.
Right. Now, what is the age limit? Generally speaking, age limit, well, there's no age limit as per if you want to bear children, but there are consequences for delay. Your fertility peaks at around 28, maximum 32. It begins to diminish very rapidly thereafter from 35. So if you are going to donate, at least in our practice and in many, many centers across the world, it is the limit, if you're going to donate, is 28. We do not even say 28 anymore, 27. So that is the upper limit. Anything above that, you begin to question. Can it diminish your fertility? Yes, in some respects. And I explain why. The consequences and the dangers of donation are there on one part. But if you have severe damage, you may end up losing your fertility. Let me give you an example. One of my colleagues, staff, was telling me about an experience that she was told some time ago. This girl had just donated, and which will come to as consequences of donation. Then she was ballooning, she was swelling up, and she was having difficulty in managing the consequences of donating eggs. And unfortunately, whoever was in charge of that did not take her seriously. At the end of the day, they went to remove her ovaries. A 25-year-old whose eggs and ovaries has been removed, you have literally rendered that person castrated, infertile for the rest of her life. So infertility can occur if those consequences are not properly managed. And we know they are there, but they are not very common. They are extremely uncommon and not very frequent. It can result in infertility, if I may ask a question, but it's extremely rare, extremely.
So how often should people, the ladies, donate?
Well, as a rule of thumb, what we follow across the world, of which I'm a member, is American Society for Reproductive Medicine, ASRAM, has recommended that 6 times maximum in your lifetime. So how frequent should that be? How much is a piece of string? What is your life span? Now, as I said, you can reproduce up to age of 50, as the case may be, whatever, but your egg diminishes. So if you are going to donate, you have an upper limit of around 28 years old. So if you are donating, that should be 6 within that period and no more. If you are stimulating your egg, in fact, if it's you that is producing the egg for a potential baby, it should not be more than that number that I have just mentioned.
So there's egg donation, and there's also freezing of the egg, right? So egg donation is not necessarily for you as an individual. It's meant to be altruistic, right?
That's right.
By the way, what's the least compensation that someone should be looking at? Is 20,000 naira too small?
That is an abuse in my humble opinion. We know the state of our naira, and of course, given this present time, I don't think it should be less than 200,000.
As compensation?
As compensation.
Even though it's a donation?
Even if it's a donation.
Okay.
There's reasons for that.
Yeah.
There are agents that organizes these procedures,
donation drive.
The relationship between fertility centers, and they will still have to take their economic cost from whatever cost it is. So really, as I said, nobody can pay for it, but anything that seems to be too low for common sense, I don't think it is a justifiable and a fair play on the part of the donors.
So you now see why a lot of people see this as an economic, a way out of poverty in that sense. So 6 times 200, that's 1.2 million, right?
That's right.
And they think, okay, you say 6, but me, I can do more. God has given me more eggs. And I know, and that's where you see all of these sharp practices. And I like the fact that you have a legal perspective to medicine as well. And I think that makes you, that gives you a peculiar view to all of this. So maybe we'll talk about stringent enforcement, right? Because sometimes anything goes. After they've done 6 in one place, they go to another area and say, well, I'm starting from the scratch. They do another 6. I realize that because some of these people want money. But the question I wanted to ask, maybe you speak to enforcement, is there is egg donation. There's also the freezing bit of it. And that conversation came up recently yet again. And I want you to just speak to it on the side now. What is your advice to people? What is the best approach? Some say try to freeze it before you're 35 or before you're a certain age. What is acceptable?
Well, as an embryologist myself, I will recommend, from a fertility point of view, that individuals should have their children as soon as possible from age of 18, if it is possible, yes.
What did you say?
From the age of 18.
Are they even 18 years?
18 is matured enough. 20 is risky.
No, to be realistic.
20 is
in today's economic 30-year people are still trying to get their feet around. So let's be realistic.
No, you have women who get married early.
Yeah.
Some get married 18.
Biology now.
Okay, yeah. Okay, not economy.
Not economy.
And not morality.
Not morality.
Because someone say you have to be married to engage in such, or at least you have to be in that sense, in that kind of structure.
Yes.
But go on.
And 18 is an adult under the law.
Yes.
And biologically, carrying children at 20 is reasonable and beyond. Now, freezing of an egg comes because of what we have just mentioned, individual disposition, individual circumstances that have made it impossible to get either a partner, career pursuit, one way or the other, treatment for cancer and surgery impending on the ovaries. So many reasons that could potentially impact egg production in the future. For those groups of people, I would say freezing of eggs is a reasonable proposal. If it's a social freezing, it does not make sense.
What is social freezing?
In other words, well, I'm not ready now. I'm still looking for somebody, and when I get a man, I will freeze my egg and we can fertilize it later. My message is that embryos are more stable than eggs. Just like the sperm itself, some of these eggs will die at the time of thawing. You are waking them up, you are defreezing them. They will die, they will not be reasonable. There could be changes. Now, that said, we have records of children that have been had as a result of egg freezing and sperm freezing. So for people and individuals who are facing medical issues, it's a good idea to freeze your eggs and sperms for future use. Otherwise, you might be facing a situation whereby infertility may occur in future.
So there are also people who may have wanted to, but they're not realize that in the process. Okay, let's even talk to people who didn't even know what their fertility status is. I think that's another point that people don't highlight. Just like people go for HIV tests, what other tests do we have? Well, a couple of tests that people do. Should we now start telling young people as soon as you're 18 or 20 or so, you should start going for your fertility test in that sense? Because people grew up not knowing these things have happened to them, either male or female. So they get married, they struggle for 5 years, struggle for 10 years, struggle for 15 years. So I want you to speak to that class of people as well.
Well, I've written a couple of books on this, and I'm a strong advocate of knowing thyself. Know yourself, know your partner, know your fertility before you get into it. Know your status before you even try. If you don't, you end up being frustrated. There are tests, that simple tests to do. Ordinarily talking to a doctor, asking questions, being recommended to go carry out certain tests will give you a light, will give you a direction as to your own status. So it is highly recommended, and I will strongly advocate it, that all of us individually and collectively should, before we get into difficult times, make recommendations and go for fertility testings.
Right. I know some of these things can be a bit expensive, depending on what level you're at. But the point is, just try and explore it first so you have a better understanding. And these are some conversations we don't have, maybe because of the cultural context and all of that. But we wanted to have this conversation and speak to what is right and what is not. And we have to thank you so much, Dr. Joel Akonde, embryologist, gynecologist, fertility specialist, medical legal consultant. You also studied law.
I did.
Okay, founder and CEO, Fertility and Gynecology Center. Thank you so much for your time. You've written 12 published books.
That's correct.
I understand. Thank you for your time,
Thank you
Dr.
very much.
Akonde. Wish you the very best.
Okay, thank you.
Well, we hope you've gotten some good information to guide your decisions. But we'll take a quick break now. And when we return, there is more for you on the show. So stay with us.